Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Honorable Gilbert Kaplan, Undersecretary for International Trade of the United States Department of Commerce.
Good afternoon. I have the distinct pleasure of introducing our next speaker, the distinguished Lawrence A. Kudlow, or Larry, as he prefers. I've gotten to know Larry through different economy-related events and through work regarding trade negotiations. Larry is the cornerstone for economic policy and can take great credit for our job growth, low unemployment numbers, and the incredible growth we're seeing in the manufacturing sector. Larry almost needs no introduction. He serves as Assistant to the President for Economic Policy and Director of the National Economic Council. He leads the coordination of President Donald J. Trump's domestic and global economic policy agenda. During President Trump's campaign, Mr. Kudlow served as a tax and economic advisor. Prior to the White House, Mr. Kudlow was a CNBC senior contributor and host of CNBC's primetime show, The Kudlow Report. He also served as chief economist and senior managing director of Bear Stearns and Company. During President Reagan's first term, Mr. Kudlow was associate director for economics and planning at the Office of Management and Budget, where he was engaged in the development of the administration's economic and budget policy. He started his career at the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. Mr. Kudlow has been a nationally syndicated columnist. He was a senior editor of National Review magazine, as well as a columnist and economics editor for the National Review Online. He is also the author of JFK and the Reagan Revolution, A Secret History of American Prosperity, and American Abundance, The New Economic and Moral Prosperity. He previously served as the president of St. Patrick's Church Parish Council in Reading, Connecticut, and on the Fordham University Board of Trustees. Mr. Kudlow has won numerous awards, including the Bishop's Humanitarian Award from the Catholic Charities of Brooklyn and Queens, the New York Police Department Holy Name Society's Lifetime Achievement Award, and the Ambassadors for Mission Award from the Pontifical Mission Societies of the United States. Mr. Kudlow was educated at the University of Rochester and Princeton University's Woodrow Wilson School of Public and International Affairs. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Mr. Larry Kudlow.
Thank you, Gil. Very kind. About a third of that stuff is true. The thing you didn't mention is that Mr. Kudlow has gone bionic. I'm 2 weeks and a day after a left hip replacement. So I come to you in a state of something or other, but I am here. That's way too kind. I had let's see, the right hip replacement, 2005, so that's 14 years ago, I had a left hip replacement. And I was only off the air a week, but alas, I guess the older you get, the harder it is to heal. That's one of the lessons. So for you senior citizens out there, join us, join us. Many thanks to my great friend Wilbur Ross and all the organizers of this conference. And I'm not going to spend too much time. Among other things, I can't stand up too long, so you're going to be spared a Kudlowian rant of sorts. I do want to make a few points, though. I mean, it is a great pleasure to speak to you today about investing in the U.S. We want your help. We'd like you to direct investment wherever possible in any industries. We're trying to make it as easy as possible. We're trying to create as many incentives as possible. And be honest with you, without being too chauvinistic, but I think we have the most hospitable investment environment of any free country in the world today. I use that word, free country, and you know what I'm talking about. And I want to stop for a minute and begin with some numbers on foreign direct investment, because we're making good progress. And I think the point of this conference, and certainly our message, is to continue. Foreign investment in the U.S. in 2018, foreign direct investment in the U.S. was $324 billion. And in 2017, it was $293 billion. So we've had a good increase. It's a good beginning after our policies were unveiled and unfurled and put into place in 2017, especially the tax cuts in 2018. And the U.S. side is interesting. The U.S. side is staying home, which is great. Foreign investment by U.S. companies abroad, what they call outward investment, in 2017 was $454 billion, and in 2018 actually fell by $46 billion. So we're staying home, and you seem to be coming to us, and we welcome you. We want to be your second home, and we've created, we hope, a very benevolent, hospitable investment environment, which, of course, traditionally includes the rule of law. No country in the world that has a better rule of law, and various copyright and intellectual property and patent protections and all that goes with that for entrepreneurs and inventors and creators. But on top of that, we've had big policy changes under President Trump. And just to review, to tick off the main ones, we significantly lowered our business tax rate from 35% to 21%, which ranks us, at least at the federal level, as one of the lowest in the world. And if I'm not mistaken, in terms of the large industrial countries, we are the lowest. If I'm wrong, I'm not going to be wrong by much there. Secondly, a tremendous program of deregulation, rollback of onerous regulations, including, of course, paperwork-type regulations, but also we've taken a look at what we believe to be excessive regulations in a number of areas, be they banking or the environment or elsewhere. We're just trying to make it easier to do business without compromising either the rule of law or the environment. But we think prior administrations went way too far. So we have the low tax rates, deregulation, and trade reform. And just to spend a moment on trade reform, the President has long believed that our trade policies needed adjusting with respect to the goals of free, fair, and reciprocal trade. And I think there's some controversies or misunderstandings about where he wants to go, but he essentially wants a level playing field. And our view is, in terms of this conference, and my plea that you come invest here, if you invest in the USA, you don't have to worry about issues like tariffs or trade deals or the like. We are in the throes, I hope, of passing the USMCA deal The governments of Canada and Mexico and the U.S. have signed off on it. We're waiting for congressional approval. I'm not going to go into details there, but it's a terrific trade deal. And it has some domestic content issues, has a lot of openings, first of all, for the agriculture sector, if you're in the ag sector, but also things like IP patent protection, digital service expansion, financial service expansion. It really opens up the North American content. And I think you would benefit by operating in the U.S. under these circumstances. And the regulations here are not difficult, quite sensible. And again, we welcome it. I could go down at the state level. I mentioned taxes and regulations and now trade reform. A number of our states have moved towards right-to-work laws, which makes the labor environment much more open and less regulated, and I think provides a tremendous backbone. The many, many foreign companies I've spoken to like what we have here. We've also working on much lower automobile, what we call CAFE fuel standards. If you're in the car business, in fact, we're giving you lower tax rates, lower fuel emission standards. It doesn't get much better than that, a lot less regulation. And it's fun, come to America, it's fun. Good place. I want to add a couple thoughts. In terms of the president's policies and his views towards business and the economy, we've had a major change. And I mentioned the key policy issues, taxes and regulation and trade and so forth. But look, there's an attitudinal change. It's almost a psychological change, whereas President Trump has essentially ended the war on business and investment that we have suffered through for many years. And by the way, I don't regard this as a partisan statement. I think we've made bipartisan mistakes in the U.S. And President Trump, as a successful businessman, understands full well the importance of incentives. It has to pay after tax to encourage work, risk, investment, and so forth. So instead of punishing success, his credo is to reward success. And that has created, in my view, a completely different economic landscape. We've moved from pessimism to optimism. We've moved from, wearisome concerns to a much more confident outlook. He is somebody that wants you to take a rip at the ball. We have afforded supply-side, market-oriented economic freedom policies to give you as much running room and latitude as possible. And I dare say, when the re-election comes, after that, we'll have even additional incentives for economic growth and prosperity and jobs. And so I say that the psychological changes, the incentive changes, the idea that it should pay to invest after tax, the idea that you should be rewarded, not punished, for success. These are, I don't want to say contrary views, but I don't hear a lot of large countries or even smaller countries around the globe, some, not nearly enough, say these kinds of things. I just don't hear it. And one of the points I want to make is, if the U.S. doesn't say it, nobody else will. We're going to international conferences this summer, G20 and G7. And basically, I want the U.S. and President Trump to be unafraid, certainly not ashamed, of making a case for economic freedom and prosperity and growth. And we are proud of the fact that 2.5 some years into the administration, we've had very good success. Growth has become, unfortunately, a scarce commodity. around the world. I don't want growth to be scarce. I want growth to be plentiful. I want prosperity to be plentiful. And I believe the path towards more plentiful prosperity is paved by simple, enduring, time-tested principles of economic freedom. That's all. I want to say that. And if you come and invest here in the U.S., you'll get a good taste of that. That's what we offer you. More economic freedom than any place in the world, at least in the major countries. I'm hoping to change that and widen that scope and have other nations follow our lead, but that remains to be seen. You know, we are America first, but we are not America alone. We are open for business, your business. And I think you will find, if you come, as you have begun to, thankfully, and I thank you for this, if you come, you will see just how hospitable it has become because it is being based on these very simple principles of economic freedom. For those countries who want to go the other way, for those countries who want to go towards more government, controls, collectivism, and socialism, I would simply say you're making a mistake. And that's one of the reasons why you're not growing and we are. And I would say as long as we in the U.S. stay with these economic freedom principles, we will stay on the right side of history. And so I ask you to join us and participate. And we will do whatever we can to welcome you and keep this as hospitable as possible. Economic freedom generates prosperity. Socialism is a poverty trap. You can dress it up and call it whatever names you want, but government-dominated economies generate poverty. And it is odd to me to see at the moment we have entered this strong prosperity cycle here in the States that there are voices crying out for bigger government, more government controls, more regulations, higher taxes. At the moment we've finally gotten ourselves into a good-looking prosperity cycle, people want to turn that clock back and move it back towards poverty. I think that's a big mistake. If you happen to come from countries like that, that might give you an inducement to come here to the U.S. We are trying a different way, and our way is working. If the other way was going to work, it would have already worked. You know, it would have already worked, but it hasn't. So I'll just finish. I mean, we can talk as many numbers as you want. One of them is how many minutes I can stand on my new hip. I think I'm coming to the end, but I will say this. We got 3% economic growth in 2018. I think we got 2.5% plus in 2017. I think we're well on our way to another year of 3% growth here in 2019. Despite, an occasional monthly blip or so, the job story, the employment story is very strong in the U.S. The wage story is strong. The income story is strong. More people are working than ever before in American history. Inflation is nil. Real incomes are rising by over 4%. We may go through something a little mild inventory cycle that comes periodically, but no matter. Strong retail sales and consumer spending will fix that soon enough. And the incentive structure for capital investment, CapEx, is very strong. We had very strong 2018 in CapEx. It slowed down a wee bit, as it sometimes does. I think you'll see it picking up as the year progresses because the incentives are still in place. We are not going to raise tax rates. We are not going to re-regulate, period. End of sentence. And instead, we will continue to proclaim the values of economic freedom to you and the incentives and the policies that spur those incentives in the hope that at the end of the day, you will come join us. You invested $324 billion in the U.S. in 2018. That's a big increase over 2017. I hope you get to 400 billion in 2019 and 500 billion in 2020. Our doors open. We have a hospitable investment environment, and we are, as Americans, a most hospitable people. So my new hip and I welcome you. And I thank you for your time.